Master Connectors, we are on here. Let's go.
You know, he challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We're all deal with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro and Cameron Toth is live on air.
Oh, yes, we are live. We are in the middle of summer. I'm so excited to be with you as we get into the dog days of summer, right? The hot, hopefully where you are, you're staying cool and you're staying cool with us. We're going to get into getting into being a master connector today. And I want to make sure that you're focused on wherever you are in your story, that your growth really can really take off at any moment. Steve's going to get us into this topic today. Steve, you ready?
Absolutely. What's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. Yeah, no, we're big on in the show. One of our pillars is, overcoming obstacles, right? And that's a big part of that is in telling our story and being authentic, right? And so, but everyone loves a good underdog story. I don't know about you, but I love movies like Rudy and Rocky, and I could go on The Gladiator, Braveheart, et cetera, right? And many of us hit rock bottom. Not everybody, but many of us. I had a place where I was a really, really, really dark place for a very long time. And on the outside, most people would be like, oh, this guy's a double black belt. He's a business owner. Nobody knew, but it was something I was going through, right? And I love, speaking of Rocky, I love the Rocky 5 quote, right? And he says this, he says, it ain't about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. And listen, anyone that has a story with an easy, where they got easy fame and fortune and honestly, it's kind of a yuck story, quite frankly. We want to hear the stories of people that, have the challenges, right? And I love the Chinese proverb, right? Fall down 7 times, stand up 8, right? And it's the ones that get hit and just keep going and they get up. And, I'm often asked to be on podcasts. And a lot of times the question is, what's your superpower? I'll be honest. I don't have a quit bone in my body. That is my superpower. I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to give up. I'm married 34 years. There was a lot of opportunities to quit, but I didn't. I don't give up. I don't quit. And it's amazing. So whether you're an inspiring entrepreneur, right, a business professional, writer, or just a squirrel trying to get a nut like me, right? Today's show is going to speak to you. So if you're ready for my man, my partner in crime and co-host extraordinaire to introduce our guest, I'd like you to type in right now. Thank you, Cameron. Type in the hashtag bring it, and I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Absolutely. We're going to get Rob on the screen. Here we go. Rob Matzkin is an entrepreneur with multiple failures and a few exits. He has worked in everything from AI to last mile delivery, SaaS and marketplaces on multiple continents. He's currently resides in Miami Beach, coming to you live today from Dominican Republic, and runs M3 Coaching, working with business owners there, communication, leadership, and performance. He's also a hyper connector and community builder, bringing the top entrepreneurs from across the country together once a quarter. Please welcome to the show the hyper connector himself, Rob Matzkin.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. It's great to be here. And what an intro. I need to record that. I need that. You need to just send me that intro because that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Who cares about Micah Buffer? We got Cameron Toth,
There it is.
So where in Dominican? Are you in Punta Cana? Where are you?
No. I'm on the North Shore in a place called Cabarete. It's the wind capital of the West, and it's just a great place to be to kite surf every day and just focus on work. So everybody thinks I'm on vacation, but I actually get more work in down here than I do back in Miami because I'm on a networking sabbatical, so I could just get paperwork done.
There you go. I hear you. Well, that's great, Scott. Kite surfing sounds amazing. I haven't done it, but I love the idea of it. So sounds cool. So yeah, Cameron's from live coming at you from Valhalla, New York. I'm coming from Stamford, Connecticut. I know. So Yolanda checking in there. Just tell us where you're from. And by the way, if you're get in the comments and connect with each other. This is the Master Connector Show. If you're on this show, you are a Master Connector, right? And we encourage you to connect with each other and make sure you can add value to each other. So we're going to dig into this, Rob. And as I was in my intro a little bit, talking about stories, right? And so I want everyone to type in #tell us, because we want you to tell us your zero to hero story briefly. Obviously, we have a bunch of questions we want to get to, but tell us a little bit, if we can, give the audience a little bit of flavor as to the ups and downs and the goods, the bads, the uglies, as best you can, Rob.
Yeah, for sure. So, my struggle, I would say, really stems from my dyslexia. And, I think, Steve, we have that in common, but I didn't read at all until I was 10 years old, right? So I think what that does to a child, I had no self-confidence. I was really shy. I didn't really want to interact with anybody. And all I really wanted to do was be normal. But school, from especially elementary school, was just a nightmare. I wouldn't say high school was much better as far as school goes, but I was a standout athlete, so I got to at least shine and find myself there. But, throughout adulthood and college, it was always a way of getting by. And I needed to find a way to just get by and just survive. And it wasn't until my late 20s that I really was able to put in place and own the fact that I am dyslexic and it's fine. And I need help, cultivating emails and creating content. There's just certain things that I don't do, or I make sure I have a lot of support around me. Right. But the struggle of dyslexia is real, and it really shaped my character. No day was easy. And just the way I function as an entrepreneur, I have to be creative just to send a bajillion texts every day. And the way we communicate is via text now. And I have to have ownership that, I'm going to spell that wrong and you're going to think I'm an idiot, and it's fine, but that's on you for judging me.
Well, I love that. And, you're right. We have that in common. I kind of briefly forgot that piece of it when we had our conversation, but but I think it's such a great asset because it teaches us as a brain. And I'm listening to a great book, by the way. It's called Switch on Your Brain. And actually it's a sequel to that book, or another book by the same author called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. And the brain is so malleable. It's trainable, right? It's things we can do. But anyway, so for me, I love the voice note feature, because now you don't look stupid by spell checking, or not because I'm the same as you. I mess up the wording big time.
I couldn't agree more. I use the voice notes a lot. I use a tool called Loom, so I could just record videos and send it to myself. But the book, you just reminded me something. I think the book that really ties in dyslexia and the struggle of just not quitting really together is one of my favorite authors, obviously, is Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about it a lot in David and Goliath. And the story of David and Goliath, we all know well, but everybody thinks Goliath was this huge, massive, individual that crushed David, and David was the underdog. But in reality, Goliath was this 8-foot lumbering 400-pound behemoth that couldn't move very much. But David, he's the sniper of his day. He's got a little bow, not a bow and arrow, excuse me. He's got a little slingshot, but he could hit stuff 50 yards away and kill it dead, right? And hit it right between the eyes. So Goliath never had a chance. David brought a gun to a knife fight, right? And I think that's how I look at dyslexia, is like everybody thinks, we're underdogs, but we see the world so differently. I have to be creative. I have to be innovative. Otherwise I can't make it through a day.
Yeah, and I think the difference that there's a couple things there, right? I love that point. Goliath was a big behemoth, right? And everyone knew it. He knew it. Ego was big there, right? David was this like little unassuming shepherd boy, right? Like I mean, I don't know how accurate, because obviously these are all stories, but he's wearing the armor and he could barely walk and move in the armor, right? At one point, he puts on the the king's armor. I think he has to take it off at one point, but it's crazy. And with our dyslexia, unless, you know, you're talking about it like we do, a lot of times people don't even realize we have it. So we're kind of like this underdog, silent underdogs, right? And I love it because people don't know it. I look at a guy like you, Rob, you're good looking. I mean, I would never think you were like, you know, challenged as a kid. You look like you were a ladies' man since you were like 12 years old, right? Just a handsome guy. You know? But me, I was goofy. I was spastic. That was my nickname was Spaz growing up. So totally not the early childhood that perhaps you had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think
we definitely had this beautiful photo that we brought in. Those, I mean,
look at that. The handsome man with the pose, right?
I mean, you gotta try every once in a while. But no, you know, I think really to tie this conversation together, I had a real realization this week, and you know, mental health is so important, and you know, no matter what, you do need to just keep going, and no matter how hard it gets, you do need to just keep going. And I think the biggest thing is asking for help. And I had an individual in one of my communities that is no longer with us as of this week, and he just stopped fighting. And you know, and thanks, and I am too. And he just stopped fighting. And you know, my last few interactions with him, I got to say, I can't say were the most pleasant. But one of the things I realized is you never know what somebody's going through, and the way you might feel around them, and it doesn't really matter. You just never know what somebody's going through. And the more I think somebody reacts to you, the more something's probably in their space. And I think one of the things I'm really taking on is listening to them and being there for them, because, you know, we're all in this together. And I think the biggest thing tying it to networking is we want to be so adversarial everywhere in life, and everything's a competition. Business is about, you know, this militaristic mindset of crushing the competition. And, you know, I think the thing that's made me a tremendous networker is everybody's blown away that I'm just generous with everybody I know. I never hoard a connection. Mm-hmm. And I'm like I just met the most amazing person yesterday that could open up all these doors and super powerful for my world. And I just made 10 introductions with them. Now, I think what most people do, they hoard it and they be the gatekeeper to that person,
right,
to control that. Versus if you're generous and listening, I think that's the biggest thing. And so I just want to be as generous as I can with my time, my listening, and where I am, no matter how anybody's treating me. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge I take on this year, because I love judging people. It's my innate nature.
I think it's human nature to judge. But, you know, back to, you know, the mental issue stuff, right? And, you know, sometimes when we look at people like Robin Williams and stuff, that they're just suffering in silence and we don't even know. But, you know, it gets to and I want to get into the next topic, which is authenticity. So type in hashtag authenticity. But I find that when you share and open up and share some of your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses, that people tend to open up. And I've had people literally break down on my Zoom calls, and they're like, I've never been this honest with anyone, especially at a networking call. And that's because I break it down, because I'm sharing from the heart and being authentic. So I'd love to hear your perspective. Do you find that there's a fine line between being vulnerable and maybe too honest? Just getting your perspective on that.
No, I think, you know, it's something I would say I get confronted when I am really on fire. I'm super vulnerable. I'm super real, right? And that's when people respond to me. When I'm not, I'm in my egoic place where I'm like, oh, I want to be the tough guy or the egotistical guy. And, you know, the more recently I've been able to be in a place where I'm more vulnerable, but it takes, you know, it's interesting, the word vulnerability, right? And we talk about, and we really talk about what it is to be brave or tough. And, you know, I said, I want to be the tough guy, the macho guy, the egotistical guy, but that's easy. It takes nothing to have my guards up. It takes everything to literally be vulnerable. Literally means you can't hurt me. My hands are up, my hands are down. You could see me, you could hurt me. That's the bravest thing that you could possibly do. Right. So that's what I try and lean to. And that's what really takes something.
Let me say, you know, just on this whole competition versus somebody you're collaborating with. I love the fact that you're making those introductions. I think, in terms of being a master connector and being somebody that is connecting people all the time, there's no better time to connect somebody to somebody else while you're meeting them or immediately after you've met them. So, the whole like hoarding thing, you can hoard them from other people, but you're probably also hoarding them from yourself, because in that moment, not taking the advantage of connecting them and showing them that you do know some other people that could, potentially be useful to them, or that they could be useful to, you're probably going to forget about them, and that doesn't do great things for your own ability to remember who this person is and how, what they can do in your network. I know for me, and that's a big part of my growth and working with Steve, is just getting that understanding of, all right, I'm meeting with somebody, I'm taking the time to understand somebody. What do I do with that information? Am I taking notes down? Am I finding out things about preferences? I'm trying to do that with my own staff, understanding like, we spend so much time. I run a hospitality company. And so, I'd love to know what our clients are drinking so that, we can make them their favorite drink. But do I know what my staff's favorite drink is, so that when the tables are turned and I have an event and I invite them in-house and I'm doing a training with them, can I make them their favorite drink? Am I leading by example by doing what I say I want them to do? And I find that, in that conversation of networking and working with clients, working with people, are you leading by the example that you want to follow in your interactions? And I think that's a beautiful example. And I think, that understanding, when you were talking about the idea of we don't know what's going on in somebody's head, somebody's life, taking a moment to say something along the lines of what's going on, but also to, if you're dealing with somebody that's kind of negative with you in the moment, having that grace to be like, this is somebody that I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to react negatively to this. I'm going to be open, accepting, compassionate, because if they're doing something, especially if they're doing something that is seeming like it's focused on hurting me, hurt people, right? Hurt people. If somebody's trying to hurt you, they're probably hurting.
Yeah. I mean, we know that, there's, I probably have mentioned this in the past, but there's a story of an old man coming into a subway, and we all have been, I'm sure most of us have been on New York City subway, and, this man walks in to the subway car and he's got two kids with him, and they're all over the place. They're causing mayhem. They're causing havoc. It's crazy. And there's the lady sitting nearby, and she's looking at this and she's judging. And she's like you said, Rob, you said you have a tendency to judge. I think it's human nature for us to judge, unfortunately. I think it's part of that fight or flight, that reptilian brain of us, right? Because we have to judge, okay, is this person somebody who can help us? Someone's going to hurt us? Someone who just doesn't care, right? So she's judging, and she's like thinking, and then finally she just can't take it anymore. And she speaks up and she says, sir, can you keep control of your kids? I mean, what's going on here? And the old man, and he's not an old man, he's a man, he's just, he has his head down, he's really like distraught. And he turns to her and he looks up and he says, I'm so sorry. We just came from the hospital, just lost my wife, their mother. I'm at a loss. And, here we are thinking he's just being an idiot. He's being oblivious. He doesn't care. But no, and because we don't know what's going on for people. Yeah. So important to definitely, if you can, be sensitive, be open, not be judgmental. I'm still struggling with that. Not struggling. I'm still working on that. I'm not struggling. I'm just working on that.
Well, I mean, really what it's called, it's listening, right? And it's really listening for what's there for somebody, right? And really deeply listening, not to the cover, but to really what's there for somebody, right? And you talk about authenticity. The best way of listening is to be authentic and vulnerable, because somebody's actually going to share, so you could actually hear it, right? And the way I look at, connecting is listening for what something somebody truly needs, and listening for gold, not even what they're saying, but really what they really need, right? Whether they're to admit it or not. But I look at it as matchmaking. right?
Yeah.
I don't want to get something, give something, and I don't want to ask a favor of somebody. It's how could I match somebody so it's a mutually
Connecting dots.
beneficial, connecting the dots, right? But really, so there's that connection that both people are lit up and blown away.
Sure.
Not
Win-win.
that one person is taking. It's got to be that win-win.
Yeah.
But it starts, like you said, from being vulnerable and truly authentically listening. And from there, everything is possible.
Well, I love what you're saying. And, we want to kind of move on. So I want to type in #hyper. So you refer to yourself, obviously we're the Master Connector, right? Show and the Master Connector show. You consider yourself a hyper connector. So love to kind of get what that means for you, and maybe sort of, digging into this topic of connecting and what we were just sort of digging into it.
Wow, what it means to me. I mean, Master Connector, Hyper Connector. I mean, I don't know how different we are in that sense. But what
So
it means,
tomato.
yeah. But I mean, really, what it means to me is, how do I spend time every day connecting with somebody, right? When I'm sitting here listening to you the first time, I'm literally sitting, not taking notes of the thing, but I'm like, oh, Jeff, Jim, Jane, Joe, and I'm just listing 7, 8 people that I have to introduce you to. I literally getting off the call, I'm making a voice note. I'm literally recording myself on Loom, going to my VA, hey, Brenda, connect Steve with all these different people. I get it out, I'm done with it, right? And then it's like, well, good luck. I just made 8 introductions for you. Have fun keeping up with that today. And I'm making a statement piece too, right? But yeah. I'm cute with it. But I want to blow somebody away with, not only, and it's not a volume of connections. Sometimes it's only one person, sometimes it's only 2 people, but each one of those connections, what really fulfills me, and I think one of the reasons I'm a hyper connector is what fulfills me is either giving somebody the bit of coaching that's going to completely transform everything for them, or making the connection that's going to completely crack everything open, right? And I just love to do that, and that really lights me up. That really fulfills me. So every time I meet somebody, not only am I able to give that gift, I'm able to add them to my code.
Tough connection. DR is not known for its internet, I guess, huh?
Exactly. And
listen, I want to say something here on the connection piece, because I think something that's really important when you talk about, we're talking about authenticity before, being hyper connected, and one of those things where people are going to rely on you, the zero to the hero story. If you say you're going to do something and you do it,
integrity.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I have talked to all sorts of different folks on the ladder, owners of companies, folks that are looking to me for a basic job. And it's always surprising and very interesting to see who sort of lives up to their word and who doesn't. And, a lot of times, man, there's folks that are sitting there, they're struggling, and it's very, very clear why. Because when they say they're going to do something, they don't necessarily do it. And you can see other folks, that, they're busy. They seem like they have a lot going on. But when they say they're going to do something, they do it. And you're saying, well, how in the world? How is that possible? They got a lot going on. They're busy. But, there's that saying, who do you ask to get something done? Do you go to the person that's not busy, that's not getting something done? Or do you go to the busy person? There's a reason why they're busy in the first place, right? They get stuff done, and they are true to their word, and they figure out ways and systems and the ability to manage these pieces. And that's what I'm hearing from Rob right now. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
You're absolutely right. And, the one thing that's fascinating in moving to Miami, I am a New Yorker. I grew up in Westchester myself, going to Scarsdale High School. And speaking of Valhalla people over here.
There we go. Yeah, we got the Westchester going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And, coming down to Miami, I think a lot of people don't do what they say they're going to do. And for a while, as a New Yorker, I'd get upset and I judge. But now I go, and one person really kind of, let's just say he not only didn't do what he said he was going to do, but it wasn't very ethical around anything anyway. But I'll skip the story. But at the end of the day, I go to him, instead of yelling at him, instead of getting a fight with him, I go, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. He goes, what do you mean, thank you? I go, thank you. You showed me who you are. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for telling me who you are. Now I know where to put you. Now I know how to interact with you. Thank you so much. And he lost it. But I really was grateful because now I know how to interact with him. And now I know how
Show
to
the true colors. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we want to move on to the next category. And this where we're going is perfect lead into that, which is community. So hashtag community, type in hashtag community. But love to see your perspective, Rob, on building community and how you build it. And, listen, we're talking about zero to hero, right? So I've heard it said that if you have a big community and people that, you appreciate and they appreciate you, when you do hit that low point, you have people that you could turn to help you, or people that really just reach out and want to help you. So just curious for you on your perspective on how you build community.
Yeah, so I'll talk about my experience. So I've lived, so I grew up in New Westchester, lived in Vail, Colorado, lived in Tel Aviv, Israel, lived in Florence, Italy, Miami Beach, back to New York. And I've always built community. I've gotten better and better at it. And I think at a small scale, I say this to people that are moving to a new place. First thing is, don't travel every weekend. Stay home, right? Meet people in your community. Second is, find a hobby that you love that is social, right? It could be yoga, but if nobody's socializing because it's New York and nobody's socializing after yoga, it's a bad hobby, right? It's a great hobby, but it's a bad hobby to connect with people. Find a social hobby that you could, pickleball, whatever it is, right? For me, it was acro yoga for years. Now it's kite surfing. But then in my, I do have a network called, but my rip on my network in Miami, and I'll just tell you a short story of me getting to Miami. Middle of COVID, supposed to be there for 4 months, started dating a girl. She was pretty antisocial. She was a doctor. It was the middle of COVID. She didn't want to see anyone. I didn't know anyone the first year and a half I was in Miami, right? Come January of last year, I'm like, okay, COVID's over. It's Miami. So COVID's been over for quite some time at this point. I'm going to host a dinner. I'm going to invite everybody I know in Miami, right? Everybody I know in Miami to dinner. And it's all 6 people. I invite everybody I know in Miami, 6 people over to dinner. January 21st, I had to look it up the other week for something. And then the next week, I invite the same 6 people, still everybody I know. Then next week, it was 7. Then it was 8. Then it turned in, I had somebody help me invite people. It was 14. Then it was 20. And now I invite basically 30 people over, for 30 entrepreneurs, not even people, 30 successful entrepreneurs, investors, deal makers, real dealers, whatever it is, over for dinner most Fridays. And I cook and I do it at my house. And I'm building community. I'm calling in the people that I want there and surrounding myself with them. Right. And just creating an environment that I want to be in that is special to me, not looking good for anybody else. But I've created this thing that was missing for me, which is community around dinner, which is going back to basics. It's nothing fancy. We also do happy hours and all this other stuff. But just by feeding people and by doing stuff that I love and sharing what I love and my passions with people, it's built my reputation. It's built my community, and it's built my reputation as a hyper connector. Happy to be dinner, but no matter who you are, what you're doing, share your passions, be passionate with people. And whether that's 2 people or 20 or 200, it doesn't matter. Just keep that community and pour your love and emotion into that, and you'll see what returns. So that's
nothing better than breaking bread with people. There's nothing better than that.
For anybody out there that's sitting there like, well, I can't afford, I don't have the time to do dinner on a Friday night with these people that I'm inviting over. Steve's mentioned it last few shows when we got deep into these kinds of topics, the whole Never Eat Alone book.
Yes.
There's lots of ways to do this. And, inviting, I think, is the big thing that everybody needs to really get on board with. I don't care. Especially as I mature and I get older in life, I just had a call this morning with a nonprofit that I've been involved with for the last 27 years, and inviting, right? You got to invite people out. They got to see what you're doing. If you want them to get involved, if you want them to contribute, you have to invite. And if you want people to be involved in your life or share information with you or just break bread or be in a position where they're comfortable, you got to invite them into your world. And, sometimes that might be you inviting yourself along. Hey, do you got an event coming on that I can be a part of? But inviting and really just asking those questions is a big deal. And so you don't have to host the dinner. It's a great idea if you can, but there's a lot of different ways for you to do it. And you can do happy hours at the bar, just everybody on their own tab. You can invite people that way. There's a lot of ways to do it.
Oh, there's so many different ways, right? It could be lunch. And there's, for me, the cost isn't that high. It's somewhere anywhere from $10 to $20 a person. And I'm happy to cover it for people because but you can meet somebody up for lunch in the park. You could have, and you could both bring your own lunch. It has nothing to do with money.
The umbrella pallet for a tube steak.
Exactly. Right. It's
those non-New Yorkers. That means you're going to the hot dog stand.
There you go. But my vegetarian completely forgot what that was. But there you go. But
look, I figured I'd give you a little bit.
I love it. At the end of the day, though, you do have to have time. You do have to prioritize the time to invest in others. If you don't have the money, fine. You don't have the time, well, you're not prioritizing, and that's it's fine. There's other priorities that are more important to you, and I applaud you for what those are. But my best advice is find the time, make the priority. It doesn't have to be over alcohol. I don't drink, and I don't necessarily love the drinking culture. But if it's New York, it's definitely going to be a happy hour. It's going to be lunch. It's going to be over breaking bread because that's what New Yorkers do. But if it's nice out, it's the summer, go to Bryant Park, go to Central Park, go to Madison Square Park, wherever that is. Right?
Anywhere, anywhere, for sure. Yeah, it's great. We were talking about community before, and obviously, as you all know, I have a book coming out, right? And so because I've built this community, I've got some amazing reviews coming in. I mean, Rick Gabrielli gave me an amazing review on the book. Rob Genovese, Caesar Roman, Ann Small, Gregory Denizard. I mean, Chris Kane, somebody by the name of Arden27, Val. That was my ghostwriter. I mean, just amazing. I believe also Liz G, which I believe is Liz Gabor. I'm believing. But just amazing people. Tina Kadish, Trevor Houston so just when you have your network around you, a community around you, they're going to support you. So that's a big part. So dig your wealth while you're not while you're thirsty. Dig it before you're thirsty, so that when you need it, right? And I have a book signing, so I appreciate that, Cameron. If you are anywhere in the local area, the local Westchester area, there it is. It'll be an Osnig. So thank you for putting that up. There's the Eventbrite to find out more. It's going to be a lot of fun. So don't miss that if you're available. But anyway, that was my selfless or selfish plug there. But we want to move on. We were kind of touching on integrity before a little bit. So we want to talk about that as we start to wrap up the show here. So hashtag integrity community. But how do you look at integrity as it relates to your success? Just would love to get your perspective on that.
I do what I say I'm going to do, and I do it when I say I'm going to do it. And that's it. And if I don't, I let people know I didn't and make a new commitment. But I just do what I say.
Yeah.
What a concept, huh?
What a concept.
Yeah. And you know what? Also, there's a lot of people that bite off more than can chew. And unfortunately, they overextend themselves. You got to be conscious of that. I'm always about contingency plans. If I said I'm going to be somewhere and I want to be dressed a certain way, I'm going to take my clothes with me so that if I'm running behind or something goes a little askew, I'm still able to fulfill my commitment because I'm planning ahead. I mean, yes, I have a little bit of the DISC personality. I'm a little bit of a DC, right? So I've got that, that planner side to me. But you gotta plan because your word is your bond.
Your word is your bond. Your word is your bond to others. Your word, the word with yourself is even just as impactful. If you say you're going to work out, if you say you're going to eat right, if you say you're going to do this to yourself, do it. If you say you're going to do something for others, do it. But keep meetings on time and be punctual. It's everything. And just do it. That's it. That's really what integrity comes down to.
And so, the brother and sister to the word integrity is accountability, right? And so hashtag accountability community. But we want to just get your spin on that side. What does accountability mean to you, and how does it fit into business today? And we were kind of touching on that a little bit, but what's your perspective?
Yeah. By the way, the one last thing with the community, with the integrity, there is no right or wrong. There is no morality. You're not bad if you don't do something. You're not naughty, right? You didn't do anything wrong, but integrity will give you power so that anything is possible, right? Just want to say that. The other thing with, accountability, it's that person next to you, right? It's that person that's going to help you up, prop you up. It's somebody holding someone accountable. It's being accountable to somebody else, right? But I think it's that team aspect versus that individual aspect is what comes up for me.
Yeah, exactly. It's, knowing, I was on a call with one of my mentors just 2 days ago, and he said this. He said people will do a lot more when there's a team involved than they will for themselves, because your others are relying on you. So that, to me, that accountability, right? Not only from a standpoint of doing what you say, saying what you do, but also from a standpoint, I love from a coaching perspective, right? Having that accountability partner, that somebody is there to say, hey, you said you're going to do this. Or even if they don't say that, because that could be confrontational, that they're thinking that, okay, I said I was going to do this. So it keeps you a little bit more accountable when there's others involved, for sure.
I know one of the secrets to me being productive in the office is bringing other staff into the office, because it just makes me focus that much more when I know I got a team around me. I can't just ditz off, or if I ditz off, I'm not leading by example, and that's important to me. That helps me. That's just the way I enjoy working. If I'm working, I can focus for short amounts of time if I'm really goal driven on something, but over the long term, day to day, I know I need to be surrounded by my people. That's important to me. And, listen, everybody works a little differently, and understanding yourself is not a bad thing at all. That's a way to hold yourself accountable.
Oh, yeah.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, one of the ways of talking about mastery, one of the things that I'm looking to create with my clients right now, or create with my clients, is mastery of integrity, mastery of accountability. And how do you be actually self-accountable? Right. And how do you only be accountable to yourself, that you just do the things when you say you're going to do it? And, and really having that support system that you're able to create that, right? You still need that team effort of people around you, but you don't necessarily need people babysitting you either, or checking in on you. Right. And that's just another level of mastery that it's working
I find that, yeah, for sure. I find that when you're tracking yourself, there's accountability there, because when you leave it in our minds, we're like, oh yeah, I did. If your goal is, I don't know, 5 connect calls this week or something. Oh yeah, I did a whole bunch. In your mind, you maybe did 5, but when you look back and you're tracking it, you might be like, oh crap, I only did 2. In your mind, you did a lot more. So having something to track and keep track of, and setting goals, I believe that also contributes to that accountability, a self-accountability part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we're kind of winding down, right, Cameron?
We are.
All right. So Rob, we want you to just tell the community if you have any one last, parting thoughts, and how the best way to get people get in touch with you. I know you have a special complimentary offer.
I'm dropping that into the chat right now. So Rob was kind enough to offer a complimentary coaching call with him, and the link is there, so you can get into that right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to speak to anybody that has any questions around, connection, business power. One of the things that I really focus on with my clients is increasing revenues by 200 to 500%, which sounds insane, but really what it comes down to is what we spoke on this call, how do you communicate, right? How do you actually have integrity? How do you create performance? And how do you actually create leadership in what you're doing? And just by doing those sounding basic things, that's where your power comes from, is doing the things that you know how to do and doing them really well, right? So happy to talk to anybody about that, and talk to anybody about building their own community. And if you heard what I'm doing and you're like, there's no way I could do that, well, let me talk to you, and let's find a way that works for you to build an amazing community, because that's really where your power is going to be. And by, one thing I want to just say about community and connection, everybody talks about networking. And by the way, I didn't think I was a good networker or a good community builder until I started those dinners. And really, I didn't believe it till 6 months ago, to be honest. I was like, I'm not that good at networking. I don't like networking. And everybody's like, no, you're really good at it. You're exceptional at it. I'm like, okay, maybe it's my superpower. Let's see.
You're hyper.
I'm a hyper. But at the end of the day, I think really what it comes down to is just really being with everybody, and really just wanting to make that difference with the people that are.
Love it.
Not to me, so happy to help along the way.
Absolutely. Well, definitely, community, make sure you connect with Rob. Rob, LinkedIn, do you have a website? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
LinkedIn's great way to connect. LinkedIn or Instagram, it's all Rob Matzkin. You'll find me there, Matzkin. Obviously, you see the name of my spelling my last name. Happy to get to my it's also my email, robmatzkin@gmail. So looking forward to connecting with everybody. Gentlemen, you guys are truly a pleasure to be here. Thanks for making this fun and easy. And you're the best.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Rob. Feel free to stick around after we close down, but we are gonna end. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate you. Got to catch up, Donna, but she ordered the book. Thank you for that. Exciting. I'm sure Cameron, if he hasn't already, will put the link to the book if you want to get the book. It's phenomenal, in my opinion. From what I understand, about 2.5 hours to read it. That's what my buddy Scott Ferguson, aka Fergie, I was on his podcast. It's actually coming out. The podcast coming out this Thursday, but he told me it took 2.5 hours. So right on a plane ride, got it done. It's great. So, but anyway, next week, right, Cameron? We're excited because we have Conquering Your Everest, right? And this guy, unbelievable. He lost a lung, and I believe he's actually climbed 3 different times with one lung. I mean, most of us won't go because we're afraid we're going to lose toes and fingers and legs or our life trying to get up.
When we were setting up the show, it was funny because the message was, I gotta get back to you on this. I'm taking off for Mount Kilimanjaro tomorrow. So that's who we're dealing with here. This guy's a big deal. We're really excited about it. So episode 124 next Wednesday, same bad time, same bad channel, August 2nd. I will be on vacation, so I'll be hopefully enjoying some sunshine like my man Rob is doing.
I'll be climbing Everest by myself without you.
Steve will be holding it down. But like we say, every week, we want you to count down with us to crush it. I will be crushing it on vacation. Steve will be crushing it next week with Sean. We're excited about this. Here we go. All right, so count down with us. Rob, this is how we do it. We hold up our hand. We count down from 5, and we're going to crush it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go out there and crush it. Have an amazing week, everybody. We appreciate you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We love our community. We will see you next.